more than being able to earn a lot of money, right? It's more like how I'm able to utilize that. And today, my priorities have changed, my aspirations have changed. Like maybe if you see me at early 20s, I was an extremely ambitious guy. But if you'll ask me, can you hustle for 15, 18, 20 hours to create a startup and all that? Maybe I cannot do that now because I have different priorities.
And let's suppose if you would have been living in a city like Bangalore only, how much would that corpus be?
I highly doubt it will be too. The school fee, if you see, right? People in nurseries are paying, I don't know, the dimensions of 15, 20K per month. I have heard exorbitant amount of money from different spaces. I pay around 1,500 bucks a month, right? So this difference is huge. Now, when I plan for my financial freedom journey and all that, I don't consider that 60, 70. The reason being, I don't want to be financially independent, location specific. I don't want to say that I am financially independent because I am living in here.
Hi guys, welcome to another video of Parana Money Podcast, and this is probably the fourth or fifth video in our Paisa Profit Portfolio series. So today we have Gaurav with us, who is 35 right now and has been able to achieve a 4 Cr corpus and is financially free. Now we're going to discuss with him how he's been able to achieve this and take extremely important learnings, which let's say you can utilize in your journey as well. Hi Gaurav.
Hi, Vishwas. How are you?
I'm great. In the start, if you can, just give a brief to the audience about your background and everything.
Sure. Like Vishwas said, my name is Gaurav and I come from Himachal Pradesh, a beautiful town in Himachal Pradesh. So that's where my upbringing has happened. Come from a background of government employees. My father and mother both are retired government employees. Dad ex-army and then retired from education sector. And I started my career in 2013. I am a BTech, and from 2013 I worked with one of the IT giants of India. I spent almost 3 years with that organization as a developer, you can say, or a pre-sales kind of a role. And then eventually in 2016, I decided I'll go for my MBA. And I did my MBA from Symbiosis Pune. That's a college called SIMS in Pune. I did it in marketing finance. Post that, I got placed in a consulting role with a company called Virtusa Consulting. It's based out of Bangalore. Spent again almost 3 years in there, and then eventually shifted to two different companies. And today I work with a tech startup. And yeah, that's my career journey. My wife is also working with one of the IT giants of India. She's working in Noida. Yeah, that's pretty much about myself.
Let's say you landed up in a place which, let's say, is a mass recruiter like Infosys,
Correct.
where everybody gets placed at
That's right.
at standard packages.
Right.
So at what CTC did you start there?
So from there, when they hire you, right, they sent you to a Mysore campus, and
Right.
then you got trained there for like 6 months or so. And at that time, they pay you around 12K something. And then
Right.
when you got posted to their proper development centers, so for example, in my case, I was placed in Chennai. There, I was being paid around 25K per month, so somewhere around that, 25, 27 pay to people who start their journey with them. If you are a normal BTech, I think to MTech folks, they pay a little more, somewhere around 30 or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, somewhere around that, I started my journey. Also 25, 27.
If you can tell how much are you earning today, if you can give
Sure.
that range also.
So in my 3 years with Infosys, I think by 2016, I was at around again, probably touching 30K per month. After my MBA, right, I got placed at around 11, 12 per annum, right? So in hand, I was getting around 70K at that time, somewhere around that 70, 72K. And then if I see myself today, so after a few, like I mentioned, I changed a few companies, right? I've spent 6 to 7 years after my MBA. So a total experience of 9+ years in the industry. Today, I'm at around 3 or 4x of that. The range I mentioned is because of n number of factors that go inside your, so yeah, somewhere around 3, 4x of where I started post my MBA is what I make.
So, one very interesting thing, you just told us your entire CTC growth that you've had. These are actually, the jumps like a lot of people want to have in their careers, like
Sure,
you've
right.
had. And especially, because a lot of folks would relate to this because we have a lot of BTechs in India who,
Right.
let's say, join these mass recruiting companies
Correct.
at 3.6 LPA.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
And some people, kind of had that, usually follow a pattern of slow growth. They
Right.
might reach just maybe 10, 12, 15 LPA and
Correct.
with
Correct.
10 years of experience also.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have had a very different journey.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
What are, let's say, the things you did right? Obviously, one thing people will say, he did his MBA. Even if I look at the complete picture, MBA
Right.
is, let's say, I would say 20-25%
Sure.
of, let's say, that would add value to
Correct.
it. Right?
Correct.
Even, let's say, after MBA, like you told, you got 12 LPA. But
Right.
again, you still have to grow, right?
Correct.
You still have to
That's
take
right.
those bets.
Right.
So what are the things that you did right that you feel that is the reason why you've been able to grow your CTCs much
Sure.
faster?
So I'll say two things when I talk to people, right, and they check with me or they ask me what exactly can we do, right, if we want to have that growth. One, your communication skills, right, your soft skills for that matter. When you go in a job, you'll have to do something, right, and everyone can do that. So there's a particular role and there are some descriptions behind that, right. So for example, I need to shoot something, right. That's something which I'll have to do. What about your soft skills, right? So work on that one, right? And second, which I tell to everyone is, whatever work you get, even if say it's just a copy paste of something, right? You do it with your 100% heart. So I personally do not believe in the concept called work-life balance. The reason is I do not say that those 9 hours of your life, that is also life, right? Where you work, it's not separate from your life, the work, right? So that's why those 9, 10 hours which you're spending in there, give your 100%. Whatever task it is, right? Take it as a matter of pride. Do it with utmost respect, right? And that's how people identify you, right? You create a brand for yourself. So that's what I have done over the years. Even if the work which I was doing, irrespective of like it, I don't like it, right? I give my 100%. Something that has to be done, right? And it's part of my life. You build your soft skills, you build that sort of personality, you'll create a brand around yourself. So people will see you as a brand, right? And that will help you to actually network and then grow in your career. So that's what I have done. And I always recommend people to follow that path.
I think I would even double click on that
Yeah.
to just to ensure to people that
Sure.
I think you did tell me that I think the last CTC that you had somewhere around when you were at 15, 16,
Sure.
and then
Correct.
let's say some of the previous employees
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of opened a new
Right.
company.
So like I mentioned, right, when you create a brand of yourself, people start identifying you, the network that you build, right? So the
Right.
company that I work for today, the same folks I have worked, so the co-founders of that company, I have worked with them in the past, right? So
Right.
that relationship building, people, like I said, they start identifying you, right? And then we were still in communication after they started something of their own and I was somewhere else, right? And we interacted that this is the opportunity. I also love that. And that's how I came there. At that time, there's not a big struggle in asking for that money. They know your potential, your worth, right? And it's easy for you to quote some number and justify that, right? There's
Right.
not a long interview process for that because if,
Right.
for example, you are hiring me, you will already know my qualities and all, right? You will say, okay, this guy deserves this much. Let's hire him directly. So that's what happened in my case also. I won't say the CTC jump that I got was totally based on my potential or on all that stuff. It was again due to that networking and that brand that I have built around myself, right? They
Right.
identified that. They said, let's hire this guy. And I was happy to work with those guys. So that's how it happened.
Right. I think that's a good point to remember that a lot of people at times take their jobs for granted.
Yep.
And what you should actively also think about is, let's say, even if you were not to stay at this company for a long time, but there are
Absolutely.
people that you work with. These people will also move on further. They'll start
Exactly.
something of their own. Maybe
Correct.
they'll go to a CXO position in some
Correct.
other company.
Correct.
They can reach out to you
Right.
because we can say this कि LinkedIn से कितनी ही hiring होती है,
Correct.
but
Correct.
everybody wants to hire within their network.
Exactly.
That's a matter of fact, as long people are available.
And that's a very good point. I like to add to that. When people hire after a particular point, right? So say, for example, I'm hiring someone at 10 lakh per annum or something. I'm still okay picking someone from market. But when I talk about senior roles, right, I want to hire someone who I want to directly work with. I want to understand the person, right?
Right.
Before I say that, okay, I'll put my bets on the guy. I want to hire someone at 40 LPA, 50, 60, or of that sort of things, right? I need someone who I understand. I'm okay to work with. I'm comfortable to work with. Right? And to your point, rather than going to a LinkedIn or something, I prefer someone that I know, right?
Right.
I've worked around. I think for a lot of people, right, more than being able to earn a lot of money, right, it's more like how I'm able to utilize that. For me, at 35 or eventually as I age, I have seen from my early 20s, if I'll see my that version, and today my priorities have changed, my aspirations have changed. Right? Maybe if you see me at early 20s, I was an extremely ambitious guy. Not that I'm not that person now, but if you'll ask me, can you hustle for 15, 18, 20 years to create a startup and all that? Maybe I cannot do that now because I have different priorities. I want to spend more time
Right.
with my parents, my wife, my daughter. Right? Those things give me more comfort, more happiness than even
Right.
thinking that I'll hustle for 20 years a day. Right?
Let's say, how did you approach your finances during this period? If you could give me an
Okay.
overview of that.
Right. So my financial journey started with my first paycheck. So even when I was earning 12K as a trainee with Infosys, I started saving 2K, 3K, or whatever I can at that time. My only so when you're in Infosys and all, right, they provide you accommodation. Right? So my accommodation was sorted. My only expenses were related to my diet because
Right.
I like I mentioned, go to gym and all. And other than that, if I save 2, 3K, I'll put that in. At that time, I was not much aware where to invest and all, but still I did mutual funds, but those were not the direct ones. Those were the different component of that through a broker and all. So because I transitioned career from a particular ecosystem, which you mentioned, right, and then to the ITs and all these things, right, I was sure that I'll have to do something to be in more control of my life. And the first factor which I thought was finances, right? Finances should never be an issue for me to take any disruptive decision. That thing I was clear on. And that's how I started saving that 2, 3K, irrespective of that I was making 12K. Then eventually I went to 25K something. I started saving around 5K, 6K at that time. Now, after my MBA, I got a lot of exposure due to people that I was in contact with, due to our faculty there. I
Right.
got a lot of exposure to capital markets, securities, mutual funds, personal finance, and all this space, right? And then I was clear, if I'll start making 50, 60K, whatever, 50% I definitely save, right? So that's how that seed of investments and all was there from beginning. And with my MBA, it actually solidified after that. And as I was making more money, I was insured. Even though I make decent expenses, I won't say that I'm a frugal kind of a guy. I make decent expenses in a lot of spaces of life. Still, I was able to save 50, 60%. And thanks to my wife, right? She also makes more or less what I make today.
Right.
So our income every month is decently high for a normal person, right, in India. And our expenses, even after if I'll spend like 1 lakh per month, still I was able to save a substantial amount of money from any standards.
Right.
So that's how that thing done over the years. And I'll still consider myself not a good investor, but a lucky person. One, like I mentioned, a wife making decent money. Plus, the Corona time happened, right? Though it was not very lucky for other people, at least for us, we shifted to our hometowns, right? That helped me to save a lot of money, which I otherwise would have been able to if I was in a Bangalore or a Mumbai kind of a place. So, like I said, right, the seed was always there to invest, and with some factors in life, because of me being lucky, I was able to save a lot of money to that. And investing in proper instruments, it kind of helped me today.
Right. Your wife also has a work from home?
Yeah, she also does work.
So, I want to kind of discuss more on this work from home versus
Okay.
non-work from
Right.
home thing. People, let's say, are living in metros, and obviously you must have also done that,
Right.
before COVID.
Correct.
What, let's say, are your expenses right now?
Mhm.
Because when you're living
Yep.
in your hometown,
Correct.
versus, let's say, if you were to any of your friend who's, let's say, living in Delhi NCR
Right.
or in
Right.
some other metro city,
Correct.
what is the kind of difference that you see in the expenses?
I'll give you both examples. Okay? When I was in Bangalore after my marriage, both of us were making 70K at that time. So around 1.4 lakh was our income at that time. I'm talking about 2018 something, somewhere around 2018, 19, I'm talking about it. Our expenses in Bangalore at that time were around, I won't say more than 60, 70K after
Right.
my marriage. There were some annual expenses like if you travel and all. I'm not considering that right now. But yeah, 60, 70K per month was all we were. So in Bangalore, the places where we were staying, it was toward Electronic City. The accommodation at that time was still not expensive. For a 2 BHK thing, you'll pay around 20K something during my time. I'm not sure what's happening right now. And today, if I see myself, like I mentioned, it's not even a tier 3 city where I stay. By the definition, it's an extremely small town. I don't have to pay rent and all, right? No such expenses. I can easily manage. Like I can live even more than a decent life in 50, 60K still. So even after like 6, 7 years, considering all the inflation and all, right? Even though we have an additional family member now, still a 60, 70K is an extremely comfortable space for us. If I'm not paying any rent and all, right? That's extremely decent thing. Now, when I plan for my financial freedom journey and all, I don't consider that 60, 70K thing. The reason being, I don't want to be financially independent, location specific. I don't want to say that I am financially independent because I am living in here. Right? I want to be financially independent irrespective of my location in India. Now, when I think about that, and like you mentioned, your friends and all in different parts, even my elder brother who is in Bangalore today, right? And I talk to a few other folks also very closely. I see this amount going easily to 1 lakh, right? Or 1.2 considering rents and all. So annual basis, I see at least, not at least, but I would say somewhere between 12 to 15 lakhs is what I will be spending if I was in a Delhi or a Bangalore kind of thing. And that's what my people spend, around 12, 15, depending on income levels.
Right.
People might have a CTC of 12, 15. So for them, it can be done in 8, 10 also easily, and not a big thing. But yeah, I think for my kind of a person, 12 to 15 will be an extremely comfortable situation all over India.
So there is almost, let's say, a 50% gap.
Absolutely. I mean, so for example, the school fee, if you see, right, people in nurseries are paying, I don't know, the dimensions of 15, 20K per month, right? I've heard exorbitant amount of monies from different spaces. I pay around 1,500 bucks a month, right? So this difference is huge. And these things add upon, right, as you go on year by year.
So I think to just factor in and for how many years you have been, let's say, doing work from home?
It's now 4.5 plus years, almost
4.5 years. Yeah. So if I, let's say, take 4.5 years into account, let's say, even if I do a very small calculation, that let's say somebody is doing an SIP of 25,000 per month, and at the same time, let's suppose he has the same income as you and everything. Gaurav is doing an SIP of 50,000 because he has the leverage of doing work from home and living in a small town.
Right.
So the difference between the corpus, if you apply an SIP calculator for 4 years and let's say assume the return of 15% per annum, I think the difference would be huge.
It will be sure. So I have done kind of rough estimates in my mind, like you're talking about this, right? What I thought is, if in these 4.5 years, right, I was in say Bangalore because that's where our journey started. I'm easily 40 lakhs more in terms of spending. So like I said, right, 60K today I spend here, 50K, right? There would I have been spending like 60K more. So per year I'm saving like 7-8 lakhs, right? So 5 years it's more like 40 lakhs rupees I have just saved. Now,
Right.
forget about investments and all. I do that also, right? Even if I'm saving, it's still a 30-40 lakh. And I invested somewhere, it could be 10%, 12% or something. So easily 50-60 lakh I have made just because I was at my hometown.
Right.
So
Right.
that's an extremely
Right.
amazing thing for us that's had happened.
And what's the value of your overall corpus that you have right
Okay,
now?
so today, if I see, I'd say close to 4.
Hmm.
And I do have some crypto exposure, which I usually do not include in this. I'll keep that as a play money. When I'm in my late 40s or something, I'll withdraw that if it's still there, right? If it sustains till that level, and I'll do some anything which I like at that time. So yeah, close to 4 CR, I'd say.
And let's suppose if you would have been living in a city like Bangalore only,
Mhm.
how much would that corpus be?
I highly doubt it will be 2 also, right? Because my shift to my hometown, that money 40-50 saved plus some extra expenses, right? Maybe I would have purchased a flat there, right? I would have
Right.
been paying some EMI. I would have purchased a car. Here now, my dad has a car, right? Which I use. I have a roof on my head, right? So a lot of big ticket expenses I have not done.
So 4
Sure.
CR worth of corpus.
Mhm.
What is, let's say, the allocation
Okay.
around different asset
Yeah.
classes?
I'm heavily into mutual funds. So,
Hmm.
and that's direct plans and all across sectors. So I have small mid cap exposure. I have flexi caps and I think Nifty index funds also I have. In total, it will be somewhere around 2.5 CR today. So I think markets touched around 85K, Sensex and all. Now they are again at 81 something. So maybe a little less than that today, but yeah, 2.5 CR is what I have in mutual funds. Other than that, I do have a small real estate portion in my corpus. That's not a significant thing. I purchased it, I think, for around 25-30 lakhs when during this COVID times only. 2021, I think I purchased that around 25-30 lakhs near my hometown. Today, it will be sitting at around 45-50. I'm not sure. That's what at least I think 45-50 will be the value. And then I have a debt exposure. When I say debt, it has everything like PPF, EPF, your FDs, whatnot, your RDs, post office savings scheme. All that combined together will be around, I think, 70 or so. Yeah, we do have some physical gold. Now that's from coins mostly, that sort of a thing. I don't know why I'm in that. Could be because of my wife's interest. But yeah, I do have a physical gold exposure that will be of the levels of 30 or something.
Most people generally don't have this much allocation to gold.
Yeah, I'll tell you the interesting thing. When we got married, right, back in 2018-19, the gold prices were around 33K. And that's
Right.
for a 10 gram gold. I think that's how they call it. Today, if you see, it's around 70-75. Right?
Right.
So that thing has also helped. Our gold,
Right.
it's not that I paid 30 lakhs for that. I have paid like 12-50. It has
Yeah.
more than
Right.
doubled
Right.
over these
Right.
4-5 years. So that's why it's sitting at around 70 today.
Right. I think gold is definitely one of those asset classes which gives you a very good hedge against inflation.
Correct,
It's
exactly.
at times better than real estate because
Definitely.
it has its liquidity challenge. I think gold is
Correct.
one of the most liquidable asset classes that you can have. Not even,
Exactly.
let's say, your mutual funds or
Right.
even because you can immediately sell it and get the value for it. But what, let's say, are your next top 3 priorities that you have in mind?
Vishwas, for me, right? So they use the word fire, right? So financially independent and then retire early. I do not relate to that at all. Right?
Right.
When I say 35, even though I'm not sure how people perceive that, I still feel myself young, right? I
Yeah.
see myself at least doing something. I won't say working or whatever, right? At least till like 50, 55. I've seen my parents doing that, right?
Right.
My father-in-law, he's, I think, in his early 60s. He's a businessman kind of a person. He's still working, right?
Right.
So I do not see that component coming in my life at all. But yeah, I want to be that much comfortable or have that much freedom where I decide what I do, right? The people that I work with. So for example, in my case, right, I'm working with people who I prefer to work with. I enjoy working with them, right? And similarly, if I love teaching, right? Now, if I'm down the line at 45 or something and I say that, okay, I have decent money, even if that thing is generating me 20K or 30K, let me start or explore that thing, start teaching people, right? So stuff like that. So for me, in terms of priorities, I would say an extremely comfortable life from my family, and my family's comfort is not very expensive, to be honest, right? Even though we come from decent backgrounds, the comfort is not expensive for them, right? So that I can easily manage with what I have today. And if I, like you mentioned, if I let it grow for another 5-10 years and let it compound, right? Second priority I'll say is sort everything for my daughter. Right? So for her to be in a position when she's in her 20s or something to decide that I want to do this, do that, at least I'll have that corpus for her, right? Kept aside. And third thing, sort everything for myself. If I am in my 40, 45s, right? And like I mentioned, if I want to teach someone or I want to open a small studio for that matter, right? I should have that 1-2 CR in buffer, right? And then put that money in there, even if that collapses and that doesn't generate anything for me, I should be in a situation to pay my bills continuously.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
when I see myself, so I'll just extend that point a bit. When I see myself financially free, right, I don't just relate that to the corpus. When I talk to people and they check with me that, hey, what should we also do? I said, rather than worrying a lot about corpus that you have, start thinking how you can generate some extra income, right, from the other than what you're already doing. For example,
Right.
I'm saying I'm working as a consultant and I make say XYZ amount of money every month. Can I generate 30-40K from somewhere else? So if I talk about myself today, I can easily generate, if I spend an hour or so every weekend, I can easily generate 30-40K teaching people a number of things. Now that gives me a confidence that I have corpus, right, that can give me
Right.
some money, and I can still generate 30-40K even if I am made redundant or stuff like that, right? So I
Right.
can, and if given time, if I give like 1 hour every day or 3 hours every day, I can scale that 30K to 50K, 1 lakh or something like that, right? So start looking for that sort of a thing. That will be my goal, or also a priority for the next 5-10 years. How can I scale that 20-30K, which I can easily generate today, to maybe 1 lakh or something, right? So to reduce my dependency on my corpus and dedicate that corpus to my probably my family. So if you
Right.
have some aspirations, go ahead with this. I can pay my bills with this. So
Right.
that's what the thought
That's
process is.
that. That's actually a very good plan. Matlab, for people, financial freedom for most people, I believe, and this is the reality check that people get. Let's say
Yep.
when they achieve fire, also because for years they're chasing corpus,
Correct.
right? And when
Correct.
they retire, what they actually then feel is, this fire is without purpose.
Correct. Beautiful point which you mentioned, right? And I initially used to think, right, that when I thought about this financial freedom and all, that 2 CR will be enough for me, right? Given the aspirations I have, given the skills I have, that I can easily generate some extra money and all. I thought two CR was what I need. I crossed that in a jiffy, right? And after that, I was thinking, hey, okay, now what? 3, now what?
Right.
4, right? That number never ends. It could be a 400 CR thing for someone, a big shot guy, right? But then if you have that money, then what next? What are your aspirations that you want to do with life, right? Start exploring that from the beginning and don't attach that to a corpus, right? Start doing that already. Spend 1 hour, 2 hours, right, on a weekend or something. Start exploring that at least. What you will do after having that cash.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody. He is, let's say, he's also kind of sitting at the same corpus as you, and
Okay.
he also has very minimal expenses. And he, let's say, kind of stopped working, and
Okay.
within I think 3 or 4 months he got frustrated.
Definitely, right? If you
Right.
don't have anything to think about, what will you do? Someone like will wake
Yeah.
up at 6 a.m. Then
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
The day is like
that
18
is what he
hours.
said. That हाँ 2 महीने मैंने घूम लिया, 2 महीने मैंने मूवीज देख ली, ये कर लिया, बट बाकी लोग तो काम पे ही जा रहे हैं घर में जो है.
So अब 6 बजे उठ रहे हो, 18 घंटे का दिन पड़ा. What will you
Right,
do in
right.
that?
So he then kind of, then he basically wrote down the goals.
Okay.
Right, this is
Very nice.
what I want to do now.
Correct.
Like you said that you want to, let's say, open a studio or something, do
Right.
sort of an activity.
Correct.
So he wants to, let's say, explore trading. So he's now
Right.
doing that. So
Okay.
that's what is keeping him busy.
Correct.
So that is what it is about. That whatever, let's say, you're passionate about or something
Right.
that you're curious about,
Correct.
you can explore that without any financial baggage.
Exactly.
That is, let's say, what is the point and the entire logic behind financial freedom, that you get to make choices that earlier, you would not have been able to. Yeah, so in the end, guys, if I were to, let's say, sum Gaurav's journey, and there are basically 2 major learnings that I see that you can utilize for yourself. Number one being, like he said, creating a brand of yourself. Now, most people associate branding just, in the case of businesses, companies, but as a building a personal brand, right? A lot of people do it on LinkedIn. So obviously there's a outreach based personal brand, but there is also an internal personal brand, which, let's say, you have within the company, right? So folks that you're working with, they might go tomorrow, join new companies, and they might, let's say, have opportunities for you. And you never know, the colleague that you're working with starts his new company and has a great idea, and let's say that can be scaled to enormous success, and you being an early part of it can really help you boost your income by 2x 3x, right? And the second part, if let's say you do have the opportunity wherein you can stay with your family, right? You have, let's say, a family home and you can live in a tier 2 tier 3 city, do go for that option, because that will help you boost your savings rate a lot. Now that savings rate will basically translate into your overall portfolio corpus that you want to achieve, right? Your financial freedom journey would, let's say, be much easier in terms of the time that you want to take, right? You can achieve it much faster. And the another benefit of this is that, now this is not something related to core, let's say, financial part of it, but let's say other things which, let's say, you seek, right? For example, spending more time with your family, seeking out those small little things which creates happiness in your life. So do that. So thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much for doing this today, and I think a lot of people will find inspiration.
Thank you so much, sir. Pleasure being here. Thank you.